Who approved this? The room went quiet. Not the normal kind of quiet. Not the people are thinking quiet. This was different. This was the kind of silence where everyone suddenly becomes very interested in not speaking. Laptops stopped typing. Chairs stopped moving. Even the air felt still. And somehow, everyone started looking at me. Not all at once. One person first, then another, then slowly. The entire room. That's when I realized something. Nobody was going to say anything, because they were waiting for me. I sat there, trying to look normal, trying to look like I belonged in this moment. But inside, I was already replaying everything I did that morning, because deep down, I knew nobody approved it. Not my boss, not my team, no one. And somehow, that made it worse. Because the truth was, nobody even asked me to do anything. This all started earlier that day. It was one of those slow mornings. Not busy, not chaotic, just stuck. Our team was in a meeting. Same topic, same discussion, same lack of progress. We've been talking for almost 20 minutes, and nothing had moved forward. People were throwing out ideas, but no one was committing. You could feel in the room that quiet frustration, the kind where everyone knows the solution is simple, but no one wants to be the one to take responsibility. I sat there listening, watching, waiting, and after a while, a thought crossed my mind. This is easy, not in an arrogant way. Just honestly, it didn't seem complicated. It felt like something that just needed someone to step in and do it. And for some reason, that someone became me. Not because anyone asked, not because it was assigned, but because I decided. After the meeting ended, people went back to their desks. And I stayed for a second, thinking. Then I opened my laptop, pulled up the files, looked through the system, and started making changes. At first, it was small, really small, just cleaning things up, organizing a few sections, fixing what looked obvious. Nothing major, nothing risky, just initiative. That's what I told myself. This is good. This is what proactive people do. I even imagined it. Later that day, someone noticing, hey, this actually looks better. Maybe even my boss saying something like, good work. That was the goal. Nothing big, just recognition. So I kept going. One small fix turned into another, then another. And the more I looked, the more things I felt I could improve. So I did. I reorganized sections, adjusted formatting, updated a few details that looked outdated. At some point, it stopped feeling like small changes. But I didn't stop, because everything I was doing made sense, at least to me, and nobody said otherwise. That's the thing about silence. It feels like permission, even when it's not. An hour passed, then another, and by the time I leaned back in my chair, I felt something. Proud, not overly confident, just satisfied, because I had taken something messy and made it better. At least that's what I thought. Then I sent a message. Not to everyone, just to the team. Hey, I made a few updates to streamline things. Should be easier to follow now. Simple, professional, confident. I hit send and waited. At first, nothing. Then one reply came in. Oh, nice, this looks cleaner. I nodded slightly. Okay, good. Then another. Yeah, easier to read. Even better. This was working. This was exactly how I imagined it. For about 5 minutes. Then something changed. A new message came in. Different tone. Wait, where did the original data go? I paused, looked back at what I did, scrolled through the system. Everything seemed fine, at least on the surface. Then another message. I think something's missing. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I didn't respond yet, because I wasn't sure. Then another. This isn't matching what we had earlier. Now my focus shifted. I opened multiple tabs, checked different sections, compare versions, and slowly, something started to feel off. Not obviously wrong, just slightly different. Then I saw it. A small change I made earlier. At the time, it felt like an improvement. Now, I wasn't so sure, because that small change was connected to something bigger, and that bigger thing was connected to something else. And suddenly, it wasn't small anymore. More messages came in. Faster now. Did someone update this recently? I think this is affecting our numbers. This is different from what we sent yesterday. I sat there, staring at the screen, because now, it wasn't just feedback. It was attention, and attention means questions, and questions led somewhere. I leaned back slightly. Try to stay calm. Try to think. This is fixable. It's probably nothing. But deep down, I knew something. This was no longer a small change. And I was the only one who knew exactly what changed. Then one message came in that changed everything. Let's review this in the meeting. My heart dropped slightly. Because now, it wasn't just messages. It was going to be discussed. Out loud. In a room. With everyone. And that's when the realization hit me. I didn't just take initiative. I took ownership. Without permission. Without alignment. And now, there was no way to quietly fix it. Because everyone was about to see it. And worse, they were about to ask about it. And this time, silence wasn't going to save me. The meeting invite came in 5 minutes later. No subject line. Just the same thread. Same people. But now, it felt different. Because this wasn't a discussion anymore. It was a review. And reviews mean one thing. Someone is about to explain something. I sat there staring at the notification. For a second, I thought about not joining immediately. Maybe wait a minute. Let others go first. But that wouldn't change anything. So I clicked. The call opened. Cameras on. One by one. Faces appeared on the screen. Mark. Jessica. The rest of the team. All there. All quiet. No one was smiling. No one was joking. Just waiting. Jessica joined last. And when she did, you could feel the shift. She didn't rush. Didn't react. Just looked at her screen. Calm. Focused. That kind of calm that makes everything feel more serious. She spoke first. All right, let's walk through this. Her voice was steady. Neutral. Not angry. Which somehow made it worse. Mark shared his screen. The document appeared. My version. Clean. Organized. Updated. For a split second, I felt something. Pride. Because visually, it looked better. But that feeling didn't last long. Can someone explain what changed here? Jessica asked. Silence. Not the earlier kind. This one had weight. People were thinking. Calculating. Because everyone knew something was off. But no one wanted to guess. Mark spoke next. I noticed some structural updates. Formatting is different. He paused. But some of the data isn't aligning with previous versions. There it was. Not direct, but clear. Jessica nodded slightly. Okay. She looked across the screen. Who made these updates? And just like that, everything narrowed down to one moment. One decision. One answer. I felt my chest tighten slightly. Because this was it. This was the part where I either say something or stay quiet. And for a second, I considered it. Staying quiet. Letting someone else speak. Letting the moment pass. But deep down, I knew that wouldn't work. Because if I didn't say anything, the next step would be worse. They would start checking logs. Looking at timestamps. And eventually, they'd find me anyway. Just with more questions. So I did the only thing I could do. I spoke. I made the updates. Simple. Direct. No explanation yet. Just the truth. There was a pause. Not long. But long enough to feel it. Jessica nodded once. Okay. Still calm. Still controlled. Walk us through what you changed. And that's when it hit me. I hadn't prepared for this. Because I didn't think I'd need to explain it. I thought it would just be accepted. I look at the screen. Try to retrace my steps. Well, I reorganized some sections to make it clearer. I clicked through the document. Updated formatting. Cleaned up some areas. I kept going. And adjusted a few entries that looked outdated. There it was. That last part. Adjusted. It sounded small. But it wasn't. Jessica leaned slightly forward. What kind of adjustments? Her tone didn't change. But the question did. Now it was specific. Focused. I hesitated. Not because I didn't know, but because now I was starting to understand the impact. I updated some of the data points to match what I thought was the correct structure. Even as I said it, I knew how that sounded. What you thought was correct? Jessica asked. Still calm. Still neutral. But sharper. I swallowed slightly. Yes, based on how everything was organized. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't uncertainty. It was evaluation. Mark spoke. I think those fields are tied to the reporting system. Another pause. Jessica nodded. They are. And just like that, everything clicked into place. Because now I understood. That small adjustment I made wasn't isolated. It was connected. To reports. To outputs. To other teams. Which means, when I changed it, I didn't just improve something. I disrupted something. Jessica looked back at the screen, then at me. Were these changes discussed with anyone? That question hit differently, because now, it wasn't about the mistake. It was about the process, and I already knew the answer. No, I said it quietly, but clearly. Another pause. Longer this time. No one spoke. No one needed to, because everything was already understood. Jessica leaned back slightly. Not frustrated, not angry, just composed. Initiative is good, she said, and for a split second, I thought maybe this wasn't as bad as it felt. Then she continued, but alignment is better. And that was it. No lecture, no raised voice, just one sentence. But somehow, that sentence carried more weight than anything else she could have said. Because it wasn't just about this moment. It was about everything I didn't do. I didn't check, didn't ask, didn't confirm. I just acted. And now, I was sitting in a meeting, explaining consequences I didn't fully understand when I created them. Jessica continued, let's focus on reverting the affected areas first. Back to business. Back to control. The meeting shifted. People started discussing fixes, steps, corrections. And just like that, I wasn't the center anymore. But I was still part of it. Just differently. Because now, every action I took moving forward was being watched more closely. Not in a bad way, but in a careful way. And that's something you feel, even if no one says it. By the time the meeting ended, everything was clear. What happened? Why happened? What needed to be fixed? But more importantly, what should have happened instead? I closed my laptop slowly, sat there for a moment, not moving, because moments like that stay with you. Not because someone yelled, but because no one needed to. The rest of the day felt different. Quieter, more controlled. I fixed what I could, asked questions this time, double-checked everything. And by the end of the day, things are back to normal, at least on the surface. But for me, something had changed, because now I understood something I didn't before. Taking initiative isn't just about doing more. It's about knowing when and how to do it. The next morning, I opened my laptop, looked at my work, and paused, not out of fear, but out of awareness. Because now, before I change anything, I ask. Before I act, I align. And honestly, it's made everything smoother. Not just for me, but for everyone. Because sometimes, the fastest way to stand out is not moving first. It's moving right.